Okay, movie theaters are open, but the business is still slow. But there's still some other stuff I can do. Okay, I still haven't found a way to watch Mulan for free, even though, again, I'm not gonna pay $30 for that one, even by sheer curiosity. I know that there is this movie that many people are talking about from Netflix, but I know the discomfort zone that there is. Even if I want to be fair and all this stuff, I don't think that I got the guts to, you know the idea. I'm not gonna push it into it. But speaking of Netflix, a few weeks ago also we got the third season of one of the animes that I watch, which is none other than Aggretsuko. Since I already talked about the first season and the second season, well, it's fair game for me to go for the third season. I gave it a little bit more couple of weeks for people who haven't seen it. So, like usual, it's now for me the time to talk about Aggretsuko Season 3, about talking about each episode of the series. So anyway, what the season will give us to our favorite death metal red panda that works as a secretary in her quote-unquote mundane life. Well, let's give it a watch. Let's go. And we start season 3 with showing us the dangers of microtransactions. So anyway, yeah, Retsuko becomes obsessed on playing this virtual video game in which involves dating a virtual boyfriend that looks like an anthropomorphic Galarian Rapidash. And of course, she gets so obsessed with him so much that she spends money on, you know, all the microtransactions that you get to this guy, like clothing, improvement on his horn, everything, all useless junk. And of course, Feneko gets worried, and when she talks about it, well, it is clear that Retsuko kind of just gave up trying to improve her life. She kind of, because after, you know, the other seasons, she feels that she is now condemned to live a life of misery out of it. So what can I say? So basically, then we get a little bit of more of the build-up of what's gonna be on this season. For example, Feneko tells Retsuko that, you remember that creepy co-worker Anai, the one that gave her a hard time, but then he improved to become a cook on the company? Well, he decided to make himself a side job by even writing a cookbook out of it. So this kind of gave Retsuko a little bit of an idea to consider if she could get kind of like a side job. But of course she brushed it out, mostly because she doesn't have the self-esteem or the impulse that she needs to do that. And also Retsuko also hears the news that another one of her friends, Miss Gory, she also decides to build a side job on trying to build up a matchmaking application on the smartphones and all these things. And so basically much of this is a setup of the things that are gonna go on with the season. And of course we also get tidbits of, Haida still having a crush on Retsuko, and then he realizes that Anai he has a girlfriend, which makes him kind of like suspicious. So yeah, those are pretty much the setups that we got for at least the first episode, which it kind of works in a way, even though at that point the series had to had to brush up a few of the characters that we knew, and we just concentrate on the ones that we care. So the episode actually ends with Retsuko being helping her mother going to a hot springs where. And for that, she rents a car. They go to the hot springs. They have a good time. She eats very well because during the whole episode, Retsuko, because of her spending habits on the video gaming, she just kind of went almost broke. So she had a good time with the mother. The mother then gives her 20,000 yen, which is basically $200, and tell her to keep her chin up. So basically, yeah, Retsuko is alone. She decides to bring back the car back to the rental. But then she gets a little bit of the munchie. She decides to go to a restaurant and say, okay, I'll indulge myself, which is not a bad thing, I'll say. We all get that. That is until she makes a clumsy maneuver while parking, and she reverses and crashes into a minivan. Which, you know that with a rental car, if you manage to crash it, oh my god, kiss your money goodbye. And it doesn't help that she is confronted by the owner of the minivan, who is this shady looking cheetah who looks at her like she's gonna gut her. Oh man, and like Retsuko says, oh my god, my life it went to the shitter. Trust me, guys, you will have that same situation if you even by accident manage to wreck a car. Well, not a giant wreck, but still. Oh my god. This is how we're gonna start this season. So Retsuko is in big trouble since her clumsy driving. She accidentally makes her crash into a minivan that belongs to this cheetah. And like I said, he looks shady because the way he acts, he really resembles like a yakuza. So basically, the guy just takes a picture of her license, and he receives her business card with her cell phone. But then he just leaves, and Retsuko doesn't have the heart to say, wait, no, stay, because you have to tell that to the cops. But unfortunately, the guy just leaves, and Retsuko doesn't have his information, his phone number, or anything. That's how introverted Retsuko is. So nothing can be done. So even the cops say that, well, you should have asked him. So the only choice is that he has to call you back. She spent the whole time getting really worried about the call. If the guy is gonna call, she gets very anxious, so much that she begins to think that her life now is on the pits. And you know what? We can understand her, because it's really annoying when you get this kind of situation in which you find someone, it doesn't matter if it's like you owe someone or something, in which you barely meet the guy, you don't get enough information, and the guy just leaves. Boy, it's poor Retsuko. So because she doesn't have enough money to pay even the damages of the car, which sums up to what was it? It was 120,000 yen, which is kind of like $1,200, I think it is. Well, basically, it's a big amount of money that she owes to the rentals because of the damages. So the thing is that, well, she thinks that, well, my only choice is to make a loan. she can't do it to the bank because the bank, you know, they have to do. There's some regulation. This is not any anime, but I think that that is one solution that you could do. She considers asking a loan to Miss Gory, but unfortunately she makes a down payment for a new house, so she's basically a little bit penniless. So she can't ask her for the loans, and at least as courtesy, she tells her to become a tester for her application. So she is thinking up to asking her other friend, Miss Washimi. But of course, she had, you know, that she's kind of like in the balance, saying that if I ask her kind of like a big loan, then it will be, well, not polite. But that is until she finally gets the call from the cheetah guy, and there is kind of like a funny moment in which they're making the agreement. The cheetah guy is kind of complaining about his neck, that he has a pain, and she thinks that, oh my god, I did injure him. So they were trying to make the deal of how they could pay up the damages, but unfortunately the cheetah is kind of uncooperative, but it's not uncooperative. He doesn't cooperate out of, you know, mean-spiritedness or something like that. Actually, he kind of says that it's fair, because first of all, he was basically the victim. His card was parked, and Retsuko just made the clumsy maneuver, and she's the one that came up to him. But also he doesn't want to talk to the cops, not only because of the victimization, but also because it's gonna take a lot of work, and he doesn't have enough money for a lawyer or something like that. But anyway, still he come up with kind of like with a reasonable agreement that Retsuko should pay out little by little. It doesn't have to do nothing, you know, with medical injury or something like that. And well, Retsuko feels so sad. She gives up the money that her mother gave her. She sees the letter that her mother gave her, which is just a small letter that says, "Keep it together." And because Retsuko is very desperate, in a very pitiful situation, the cheetah guy is like, "Well, I've seen your business card. I see that you're an accountant, yeah? Yes? Okay, follow me. I'm gonna give you a job." So what kind of job will a Yakuza-like cheetah will have? Well, the episode ends with showing that he is the manager of an underground pop idol concert. Yep, the pop idols concert. We're gonna get from death metal to pop idol music, which I know that is kind of big in Japan, I'll say. Even though I don't know how it is right now, you know, with the things that are coming out. But yeah, the episode is mostly focusing on the pressure and the anxiety that Retsuko is having for the situation that he's having. She's down on a big debt, and she becomes very, very anxious when she got very little information about the guy in order to come up with a deal. And it's a good thing that he called, because in real life, what will happen if you find a kind of guy like that and they never call? That will be kind of like the worst case scenario. Although there are some other kind of like little side notes that the episode had. Like, for example, at the beginning of the episode, we got Feneko falling into the virtual boyfriend thing, and also Haida and Nai getting drunk, only for Haida accusing Nai for lying that he has a girlfriend, but then it is revealed that he was telling the truth. But anyway, yeah, this isn't gonna be about pop idols. In this episode, we meet the new characters. The cheetah guy is actually the producer of this underground underground pop idol group. It is revealed that his name is Hyodo. And the three idol groups are these two guinea pigs named Hidarin and Michi. They're pun names because their names are puns to left and right. And of course, the leader of the group, which is the chinchilla named Manaka. She so basically, yeah, those are the new characters that we meet in this episode. So as you can see, Aggretsuko now becomes their accountant. But of course, things are not easy on the job because she has to deal with the demand of the idol group. She finds out that Hyodo is not exactly the best producer in the world. He basically spends a lot of money on merchandise for the little fans that the pop idol group has. So they're always on the red. So this makes it a lot harder for Aggretsuko to get money. And well, every time when Aggretsuko wants to say something, they diss her off because she has a submissive personality that she doesn't have the strength to talk back or saying her opinion. Yeah, you know how Aggretsuko is in all these cases. And in a way, you feel bad for her, especially when she is on a giant debt that she feels so that no one respects her. They always look down to her, and of course that brings out her to her stress level to the point that if you know Aggretsuko from this point on, whenever she's stressed, her only way to cope with it is that she goes to the karaoke in order to sing her frustrations. In which, in this case, she does make a kind of like a interesting death metal song about capitalism, which is basically something that is the biggest concern of capitalism. That is basically a lifelong debt. That you're always on debt. Whatever you get, you end up with. When you finish one, you get into a new one. You are always on debt, and so on and so on. And so basically, you think that this is gonna be a very depressing episode, but fortunately, it isn't, because later she gets a visit from her friend Miss Washimi, who really puts her on her place by saying that, well, you are in that job, yeah, you're stuck, but what have you done to make an improvement? You have to step up the game a little bit. I mean, because having a business, yeah, is hard, especially when you get a side business. Because you have a main job and the side job, technically you're having kind of like a double life. Normally you get tired and you lose some stamina out of it, but sometimes you have to give it your best in it and do it with a straight face. And yeah, she did reprimand saying to Aggretsuko that she can't stay up like that. And Miss Washimi, being the lovely character that she is, she even loans her 10,000 yen to motivate her to how can I say, to give it her best shot. And then we kind of have we ended up seeing Aggretsuko doing her best during her main accountant job, and also in her side job. She managed to become a little bit more upstart and having better plans into how to organize the merchandise without spending a lot of money. Like, for example, in this case, she comes up with a plan that they have to invest on a ping machine in order to recycle the used pins that they weren't used, so they can create themselves new ones. And of course, this makes the thing cost effective. And well, this is kind of like a good start, at least for Aggretsuko. She started out kind of in the downer, but this episode kind of brings her up, kind of like a little bit of strength on her that she needed. And this is something that makes this episode a little bit more uplifting compared to the other episodes. But of course, we had to end up with with another element that's gonna be important with this episode, with this season, I mean, and that is that we get that Haida gets introduced to a new character, which is this new co-worker named Inui, which I'll say, she's a pretty dog. For a cartoon dog, she's very pretty. And of course, there is some chemistry, there is some starting chemistry between her and Haida. The romance gets more intense. So the episode starts with Retsuko doing the biggest mistake of her life. Selling her PlayStation. Retsuko, why you had to sell your PlayStation? I know that you wanted to get over distractions that make you sell, buy DLCs and microtransactions and everything, but come on, selling your PlayStation. Look, at least play Persona 5. Not Royal. Royal sucks. Or Kingdom Hearts 3. Okay, I was nitpicking. But anyway, yeah, Retsuko sells her PlayStation, and she begins to get more involved in her side job as an accountant of the pop idol group. So much that she becomes more helpful. She finds kind of like cost-effective ways to create merchandise, and she even pinpoints a fraud in the official website. So much because she finds out that no one exactly is managing it, so she decides to finally construct it on her own, which brings out the admiration of Hyodo and the pop idol group. And that's a good thing. We see how Retsuko begins to step up and even having a little bit of fun, to the point that the group is becoming to get a little bit successful, at least enough to finally get some profit out of it. Even Retsuko begins to open her own hobby of making her own kind of like YouTube channel of her death metal hobby. Of course, wearing kind of like a mask in order to conceal her identity. Funny, it's kind of like me, of course, because honestly, even though I'm making this movie review with poor quality, it's all improvised. It's things that I'm doing, it all pops out of my head. Even the things that I do is pop out of my head. The things that I do when I want, not kind of like an irregular schedule here and there. But the difference, of course, is that I'm not doing it for money. I'm just doing it as a hobby. It's just a hobby that I'm doing. Well, yeah, I admit it. Even though, yeah, profit sounds nice, but right now, I don't. If I get motivated to step up, maybe I'll do it. But right now, well, I don't want to make any more excuses just in case. I'm just stating what I'm saying. But anyway, yeah, Retsuko is stepping up on her side job, and it's all fine and dandy. There is also this side story which involves Haida, in which he begins to hang out with Miss Inui, the pretty co-worker that he finds, and they find out that they have a good chemistry. They like the music. They are compatible with their likings on the music. They talk to each other kind of normally, and they become kind of like fast friends. So much that Feneko really begins to see that they're cute together. They have a good chemistry, and of course you see hints that Haida is the guy who he's really shy when it's about girls, and you know that he still has his crush on Retsuko. But of course, the episode ends that that Hyodo, while trying to what was it? What was again the name of Hyodo and Manaka? They went to the karaoke that Retsuko goes in order to rehearse for a new song demo. And of course, the episode ends when Hyodo discovers Retsuko doing her usual death metal karaoke, which is basically her secret. So, what's gonna happen after this? Well, we're gonna see in the next episode. Oh yeah, there's also a little bit of a running gag in which people try to guess what is Hyodo's real job. Now that Hyodo discovers Retsuko's secret of singing death metal on karaoke, he decides to put a new spin on the pop idol group. So he decides to make Retsuko the lead singer of the group, incorporating the death metal inspiration that he found. But of course, Retsuko turns down the offer, most because, well, that hobby is always a secret for her, and she doesn't want anyone to know about it. So basically, the whole episode is exploring about what how can I say it? When you have kind of like a secret hobby, which is somehow exposed by some of your peers, then they kind of persuade you to go all out for what you have or what you like in order to make your life fulfilling, and it could turn out, well, better than the things that you're working on. So this is basically the biggest debate on Retsuko, so much that it also brings out some conflict, especially with Ms. Gori and Haida, who they get worried of her very secretive personality, let's say. So basically that's kind of like the episode, and at the same time we see that Haida is now hitting a little bit of a roadblock, because now that he is now having a good relationship with Ms. Inui, he still have his soft spot for Retsuko, so much that he can't choose what path to go. So there is kind of like an interesting scene in which Retsuko and Haida, they begin to talk to each other, and they make kind of like this quasi-rhetorical questions about their problems. And nobody has kind of like a correct answer, in which Haida talks about what will happen if he can't decide between two girls. And Retsuko about what will happen if you want to expose your secret to the world. But they always say, it depends. So yeah, this is basically what happens. And then basically the episode kind of ends with Retsuko apologizing to Mr. Hyodo for turning it down. But the biggest point about this episode is something that I really like, which I like that when Hyodo wanted to assign Retsuko as the lead singer apart from Manaka, you get the feeling that there's gonna be this sense of jealousy between the lead singers, and she's gonna plot to technically ruin her. But luckily, I like that it doesn't go that way. Actually, Manaka is very proud of what she does. She acts like a brat sometimes, but she's fair. I like that she calls on Retsuko, saying that, well, you don't have to feel pity on me. I do what I do is part of that's part of the business, and I don't know what you are being so submissive. The problem with you is that you're sometimes a little bit too much of a good girl. And I've seen your videos, and you're very happy in doing what you want. So why not step it up? I really actually really kind of gave out a laughter when Retsuko said that, no, I can't. I'm 25 years old. And Manika just said, so what? I'm 26-year old. What? Yeah, I know that pop idol groups usually they hire very young girls, but man, I like her stance saying that I don't care, I just do what I want. And then, well, the episode just ends during that the concert actually starts out using the revised version of the demo song, which is the death metal version, in which Hyodo used that in order to push Retsuko to get on stage and finally sing out her death metal persona. So just like Hyodo said, he managed to create something different, kind of like in this case, kind of like a pop idol group that is centered on death metal, which to be fair is very unusual, kind of like the title of this episode and the metaphor that Hyodo says, that it's just like a sea urchin on the desert. It's something unusual, but you can't but you just can't help to say, what? That is weird. And just like the episode ends, Hyodo announced that this is the birth of Aggretsuko. Title drop! Since now the pop idol group incorporated Retsuko as the lead singer, and also they incorporate the death metal into their music, it became a runaway success. And especially thanks to a pop idol blogger that promoted the group and became a sensation. So much that they began to sell out more merchandise. They began to get more money, and also they began to step up a little bit more. Like, for example, now they go into concert around all around other cities, as well as making, like, for example, promotional CDs that once you buy it, you get the chance to at least even handshake the idol for at least 3 seconds. You know, marketing things. But then comes a time when Retsuko and the group they have to make a concert in Hokkaido, in the city of Sapporo. For those who doesn't know, that's a town on the north of in the north of Japan. But of course, because everything is still secretive for Retsuko, it brings out the worries of Miss Gory and Haida, who they decided to tell her out. But unfortunately, they have to they have to, you know, how can I say, they had to stop when they realized that she's going by plane to, you know, out of the city, and they can't follow her. But of course, if you know Haida has the balls enough to pick up last-minute tickets to go to Hokkaido in order to follow Retsuko and see what's going on. Of course, still as a secret, only for him to discover that, well, she's part of the pop idol concert. And then what happens later during the Hokkaido scenes, I will say that is probably one of my favorite moments of the season, in which, almost defeated and frustrated about Retsuko, Haida decides to eat some ramen into just a little restaurant here and there. He gets a text message from Inui, and much to his surprise, he gets a fateful encounter with Tadano. For those who doesn't remember, Tadano is the rich donkey guy who was Retsuko's ex-boyfriend from last season. I never expect him to see him again, in which it's surprising because this guy is really likable. I know that he rejected Retsuko's marriage proposal because he just didn't believe in marriage and everything, but I like that he's still cool with it. And he has this encounter with Haida, even though it would have been funny seeing this, especially since they have a little bit of a clash on the last time these two characters meet. But he was nice enough to give him a lift in his airplane in order to drop him by his house. But I like that there's this heart-to-heart talk between two guys who were technically rejected by Aggretsuko. Tadano actually tells him that he notices that he's in love with Aggretsuko. He makes him realize that that these two characters, both Aggretsuko and Haida, they're kind of too secretive between each other. So much that as much as Haida likes her, he basically don't know much about her, so he's beginning to question if that's enough. Although Tadano just said that, you can't expect to know everything about that person, because that's not exactly what human beings, animals are. That's not how people are. You kind of pretend that you know everything about them, but sometimes you don't know everything. You just don't expect to know everything about them. So basically, this heart-to-heart is really charming. I really like that thing. So how the episode ends? Well, during the handshake meetings between the idols and the fans, that blogger who promoted the group, he actually comes. But much to Aggretsuko's surprise, you won't believe who was the blogger. The blogger is none other than Mr. Kamiya. If you guys forgot about him, he's basically the yes man of Mr. Tan. This overly eager guy who is always with Mr. Tan, and it's like, yes, I'll do whatever you can, or something like that. Well, he's the blogger, and he becomes a big fan of Aggretsuko. And of course, Aggretsuko, since she wants to keep everything as a secret, she doesn't want anything from him, even though he promised to keep everything as a secret. And at the end of the episode, of course, Aggretsuko has a talk with Hyodo, in which she's kind of uncomfortable knowing that one of her co-workers knows her secret. But Haida's like, so what? So why do you have to keep it as a secret? Well, it's just, I just don't like it. Then why are you doing this? Well, there is kind of like a conflict on Aggretsuko thinking that how is a good impression of a good office worker against what sometimes you want to do. So basically, the episode kind of shows that in Aggretsuko's heart, she just wants to go all out and not being technically the introverted accountant worker that we always know. Which basically that's the image that she thinks that society imposes her. But even and I like that Hyodo is like, well, who put those rules? Why do you want to do that? So in the end, Aggretsuko decides to keep on being a pop idol. So Hyodo rebrands the pop idol group as a band, because he gets this opportunity to show the band on a rock concert or a rock event. Yeah, it's a rock event known as Rockstock. Yeah, kind of like a pun to Woodstock. So basically now the girls are now forced to learn to play those instruments that they don't even know how to play. For example, in the case of Aggretsuko, she has to learn how to play the bass. And most of the episode concerning Aggretsuko, it involves her trying to learn how to play the bass, but unfortunately it is very hard. she managed to learn some of the basics, but unfortunately, it is technically difficult. Even at the end of the episode, you'll see her that she even blisters her fingers trying to. I think it was something called the F, kind of like playing the F or something like that, and not what you think of. It's kind of like a music-based term in which, unfortunately, I am not familiar to it. But then the other half of the episode, it involves Haida, who he still has a little bit of his doubts on trying to choose it to keep his love to Retsuko or move on with Inui. And so much that he even becomes friends with Tadano. And of course they begin to hang out, to talk about his feelings and everything. But still it is kind of complicated for Haida, because, well, he does he still, let's say that he's still too attached to his love to Retsuko, so much that it becomes harder for him to get a new girl that is actually more compatible to him. So much that even Inui asked him if there's gonna be a chance for her to come over to his house and listen to him playing bass. In which he does explain that he once belonged to a band, he played the bass, and he once in a while plays it. And she's very interested to see him play. So yeah, it's the poor guy. Imagine the balance that he had to pick up. But like that, every adult should make a decision. And so the episode has that one of his hangouts with Tadano, Miss Gory actually invites herself into one of their reunions after she realizes that through Midwashimi that Retsuko was acting strangely. Mostly because she's still on her depths and everything. So they have kind of like this drunken escapade in which Miss Gory actually presents her matchmaking application, which Tadano actually got interested so much that they decided to cooperate, because Tadano is actually a CEO of this kind of like robotic company. Not robotic company. You know what? I kind of don't remember. It's been a long while, but it's kind of like the Apple version of this universe. But basically, the episode actually ends with Haida rethinking about his relationship with Inui, and he decides to finally give it a shot and propose a date in which she's gonna come over to his house and watch him play the bass. Okay, a few things before I talk about the episode. First of all, I'm sorry if I mispronounce bass when I was saying bass and not bass. And another thing is that Aggretsuko is not playing a bass. She's actually playing a guitar, an electric guitar. I mean, those are some of the things that I learned from this episode. It's not just me. Even Aggretsuko addresses that. So basically, the episode has that all of the characters are having difficulty with their assigned instruments, except for Monica, who she actually hired a tutor in order to improve her skills on her instruments. So much that even though the instructor tells her that it's going to take years to master it, she actually decides to step it up and work hard, because she finds this kind of like a big opportunity to hit it big. On a side note, it is kind of funny that when she mentioned the tutor and me thinking about Retsuko blistering her her fingers in last episode. It kind of reminded me of that Family Guy episode where Mr. Washi begins to tutor Peter to play the violin in very, very torturous ways.
Your fingers, no bleeding. You no try hard enough. You want me press iron on your back again?
I'm trying.
Try harder. Play better.
Is somebody making a Cuban sandwich?
But I digress. Okay, but the biggest thing about this episode mostly centered on Haida's wishy-washy personality, on trying to choose between his love to Retsuko and his blooming, let's say blooming friendship with Miss Inui. It's so much that even Feneko even asked, say that, dude, you've been like, how, what, 5 years in this one-sided love? So why are you still holding on to Retsuko? What do you see on her? Because at least Miss Inui is more genuine on her feelings. So much that she's so nice, so nice that when they arrange for their date to have him, you know, play the bass in front of her, she even volunteered to prepare dinner at the time. So she's really a nice girl. So and Retsuko is not exactly that kind of person. So what Haida sees on her. So basically Haida begins to tell Feneko that, well, it's something that happened. One day I just saw her kind of filling a water bottle from the drinking fountain, and at first I thought it was funny, but I found it cute so much that I just, well, fell in love. And as much as I tried to communicate with her, she seemed me more like a co-worker more than anything else. So it is basically it's kind of like, I would say that Haida's love to Retsuko is kind of in a bit immature, I'll say. It's immature, but at the same time kind of cute. You know that he's also acknowledged that he could be kind of like a very dishonest, selfish person, kind of like Retsuko, even though Feneko says otherwise, that he's not technically dishonest. He's just that he's just a stuck-up, let's say. And this is something that I like about Haida. He's not entirely a perfect person. Well, sometimes this happens usually in life. Sometimes two people are not exactly kind of like the best people in the world, but sometimes there's a compatibility about it. Although, even though you see that Haida has a better, he could have gone better if he go with Inui, because, well, she's very kind, she's gentle, and she's pretty, and she has better compatibility with Haida. But of course, what happens is that Retsuko decides to call Haida so he can teach her how to play the bass, even though she's playing the guitar. So because of Haida's wishy-washy personality, he just accepts her. He can't let her go. And things get a little bit worse when both girls decide to go to his house on the same day. You might think, I like that the episode didn't go to, one guy going with two girls at the same time. And I like that they didn't do that, actually, because actually Retsuko comes first, and he teach her how to do it. You see that they get along very well, and there's some doubt. And after Retsuko leaves, Miss Inui comes and they do what they do. But of course, Inui she's not dumb. She's actually a very clever girl. She noticed some of the suspicious things that Haida actually accidentally left behind, clues about Retsuko. She noticed, like, for example, two glasses of juice in the sink, And later when she goes to the bathroom, she notices that Retsuko forgot her handkerchief in there. And yeah, she also begins to notice that he is kind of feeling himself to be forcing his feelings to her instead of being, you know, open to her. So much that the episode kind of ends with her politely leaving the house, but Haida just stops her until she says that it's alright, I'm not exactly mad. Things happen, but... And she finally gives him an ultimatum saying that, do you really like me? And the episode ends without answering that question. That will leave it on the next episode. Oh, but there is also kind of like a side note that I do want to make. At the middle of the episode, apparently, some shady stalker is taking pictures of Retsuko entering her house. That worries me. So Haida is now on a point of no return. He must choose either Retsuko or Inui. And boy, that things are kind of difficult, especially since Inui finally confesses to him that she likes him. So he can't say an answer, and so much that, well, she just politely just leave him and let him make his choice. But boy, that this sinks him into his pressure, and you kind of understand him, but sometimes you just want to slap him because he's just missing the chance for a good girl that is much more compatible to him than Retsuko because he tried with Retsuko for 5 years, so come on, move on, man. And we even get kind of like the only appearance of Tsunoda in this season, claiming what is happening with Haida's love life, in which, yeah, that Inui was very forward to him. He accepted there's a compatibility, but she began to realize that he is on this crossroad of love, and that he's not exactly very forward to her. So when she begins to say that she likes him, it's basically kind of like an ultimatum in which she either goes with him or she either goes with her. Sorry that I'm not exactly very good at word when I'm talking without a script. She either, in which I must choose between her or Retsuko, and it's not gonna be an easy choice. But I like that Inui is actually very polite to the whole situation. A lot of women who usually are very of the jealous type, they kind of tend to be violent, and I'm kind of glad that they didn't go into that thing. So yeah, Haida just she even tells Inui that he can't make up his mind, so he will tell her when he's ready to make a decision. And of course she tells him, well, okay, but try to make it quick. But then we got on the other side, which is Retsuko, in which at this time Director Tan, Retsuko's boss, he finally finds out about Retsuko's side job, and this is where he lectures her about that. Well, if being on that side job is kind of like fun, entertaining, it's kind of like the big thing that she's the big gig and everything. There's still, of course, the main job, and there comes a time in which she has to make a choice whether to go to one job or another. Even though there are times in which, well, Mr. Tan, he does go with his old school reasonable ways of making a point. It's kind of hard to sympathize with Mr. Tan, especially considering that the guy you know that obviously Mr. Ton hates Retsuko. He hates her, and basically for no reason. He's a total chauvinist, and he really likes to pick on her, and we really want to know what is his deal with her. Why he, I mean, Retsuko does her best, but he just treats her like awful. I mean, the guy got better over the seasons, but that's still not an excuse of how he sees her. And the episode also kind of like kind of make a contrast between Mr. Tan and Retsuko, but also with we see also more about the life of Manaka, who we see her that not only she has the side job as a pop idol, she also has a main job as in a grocery a convenience store, and she has an even nicer boss than Mr. Tan. But both also has to deal with the decision that it comes a time in which the workload of one job is gonna be too much to keep up two jobs, and so they must make a choice. Well, Manaka kind of begins to say that, well, we'll see. Retsuko also takes a stand and says that, well, Mr. Tan, give me 2 weeks and I'll think about it. So they're now into this path of life. But then, here's the thing, guys. This is when the series gets darker. Remember last episode that there's someone that took a photo of Retsuko going to her apartment? Well, here's the thing. She's been stalked. Apparently, this stalker, he took advantage of the fake official website of the group, that they didn't delete it, and he begins to post photos of her address and everything, and everyone is worried. But unfortunately, Retsuko, you know how naive she is a lot of times? She begins to say that, that's okay, I got autolog or something like that, even though when her friends are like, woman, this is serious. You know, yeah, this is when the things get dark, because I mean, it's nice to have fans, but sometimes you get the other side of the spectrum. Even Hyodo warns Retsuko that there's been incidents with idols, and some of them they end up even getting killed. They didn't mention that, but you get the idea. But Retsuko kind of brushed it off, thinks that it's nothing, and this is actually very worrying. But especially almost at the end of the episode, where one of the fans apparently bought like 100 tickets for the 3-second handshake, and we get this, and lo and behold, we get to see the stalker. This stalker is disturbing. Of all the Sanrio characters I have seen, I've seen shows from Sanrio like Hello Kitty and Jewel Pet, but this guy, he's the most disturbing Sanrio character they have ever made. This guy bought 5 minutes for the handshake to Retsuko, but he only took that opportunity to troll her, to roast her, to say nasty things, saying that, oh, you must be a sad life, I bet that you're leeching from the fans, the merchandise, that you're such a pathetic life and everything. Oh, I've been ranting for just 30 seconds. Even the design is creepy. It's obviously that he's kind of like a donkey, but with the jacket of the group is green, and he's always wearing this face mask. And at first it made me think that he kind of looked like an animal version of Bane, but he's not muscular. And when I heard his voice and I began to think it over, he's kind of like Overhaul from Hero Academia. And this is creepy as hell. It's a good thing that he doesn't have the power, the quirk, of course. But let me tell you guys, it only takes one deranged fan to make this whole thing very dark. And now we reached the final episode of the series. This one is a little bit longer than the usual episodes, but man, what a way to start. In this episode, we got that Retsuko kind of tries to act normal despite the threats of this deranged fan. And the more they look into this fan, it is really clear that she is in great danger. Apparently, this fan, he was an old school fan that he loved more to the old school pop idol style of the group. But when they go into this death metal stick, he apparently didn't like it, and he blames Retsuko for it. This is what they got about this crazy guy. Man, it kind of sounds like an extreme deranged Star Wars fan. Okay, no disrespect to them. But the thing is that things get worse and worse, especially when they find out that the guy even followed her to his office where she works, and the guy basically even bought a knife, planning to actually kill her. This is probably the most dangerous thing you could ever see on a Sanrio character, at least from what I've seen. Again, I've seen Jewel Pet, I've seen Hello Kitty, and they get kind of like in situations like with dark magic, they usually get fine, but never we got that Sanrio character who actually they have a more realistic danger. In this case, a crazy fan who is hell-bent on stabbing a very faulty but lovable character like Retsuko. And I do remember that the first time I saw it, I was really worried about her. So much that when the time he finally attacks her, thank goodness Haida managed to follow her in order to stop this guy, to the point that that poor Haida even cut his hand because of the whole thing. So they managed to subdue the guy, but unfortunately Retsuko gets hit in the head for the whole ordeal. And of course this also leads to Haida finally saying his feelings to Inui, who she kindly accepts his rejection, help him call the ambulance to treat Retsuko. But you think that stopping the maniac is gonna solve things? No, absolutely not, because after that, Retsuko suffers a post-traumatic disorder of the attack, in which she begins to see the world is more darker, evil, seeing that the world is full of trolls, kind of like Mr. Tan warned her, saying that kind of like death comes to you, there's nowhere to run, and yeah, she kind of paid the price of fame. And I know, when you are famous, you are a little bit more exposed to the social media and even to crazy people like these things. It kind of, in a way, it kind of reminded me years ago when I heard the news that what was it with Jason Lee? What was it? Yeah, I forgot the name escapes me. I'll put it there, the name. But he was the guy who played the White Ranger and the Green Ranger from Power Rangers. I remember that he was almost attacked by a deranged fan, and I really admired this guy. I really admired this guy in which oh yeah, Jason David Frank, that was his name, Jason David Frank. In which he took it with courage, the whole ordeal. But either way, that's something that I remember about superstars being attacked by deranged fans. But it's gonna be much harder, especially for a more submissive, nice little girl like Retsuko. And from that point, she has nowhere to go. I mean, her workplace and her house are exposed to social media, and she has to stay at her mother's house. And until things are clear, she has to be absent from her job. And so her friends begin to think, okay, what we're gonna do with the situation, and there's only one guy who probably has the key for that, and that is Haida. Boy, that they even ask him, well, you choose Retsuko instead of Inui, but are you sure you're responsible to this? Because you basically doesn't know much about her feelings and everything. And the funny thing is that Miss Gory took the opportunity to use the application to see if Haida and Retsuko are technically matched for each other. And lo and behold, they're compatible. So much that finally Haida decides to take a stand, go to Retsuko's house, and finally drag her to the karaoke, where both begin to tell the feelings to each other. So it's finally, I will say that it's finally Haida confessing to Retsuko, in which, in order to bring her back to their senses that, yeah, the world is dark, but she can't stay like that forever, and to trust him in order to protect her, even though he doesn't know a lot about Retsuko, because during the whole series, Haida usually has some false or self-imposed impressions of Retsuko, thinking that she's a strong girl, but Retsuko thinks that she's not. He doesn't know her, but still he believes in her so much that he say that, well, that's my emotion. Sometimes you have to force your emotions to another person to let them see through. And I gotta admit that Haida is also a good singer. I can't believe that. And finally, we see, of course, Retsuko going to her death metal mode, saying that she's just saying that the world is against her and all these things, that they always step on her. But I like the moment that, unlike many characters who, when they, the other two boyfriends in which they just kind of rejected her death metal moments, Haida just took a stand and grabbed her arm, and he just said, you know what? Let's punch the world back. And then we got kind of like the conclusion, in which Retsuko finally got over her trauma, and she makes one final concert in order to before she resigns, and of course just in time to finally pay off the debts from the damaged car. And then everyone goes on their way. Everything back to normal. Retsuko's back at the office. The group decides to keep on without her. They keep on doing their pop idol things, but this time they start to go one step at a time. And also we find out Hyodo's secret job that he always tries to hide. He actually works at the office as a window cleaner. That's the thing. And the episode kind of ends positive, in which, I don't know if it is confirmed, but Retsuko and Haida, they finally get along together, and it gives out clues that they're finally getting lunch together. So did they become a couple or not? But either way, for something that started out really dark, I'm glad that at least it gave out kind of like a glimmer of hope. It's not exactly the best epilogue in the world, but at least it brings out comfort, kind of like a sign of hope that sometimes even when the world gives you kind of like the worst of the worst, like in this case that deranged fan, sometimes you have to stay strong, stick it up, and punch the world back. I've been hearing people saying that this season wasn't as big as the other two. Maybe I don't know if it's because people are losing interest or something like that. I don't know, but here are my thoughts. I think that compared to season 2, I think this episode is a little bit better in the sense that season 3 is not an exact carbon copy like the first season. Because when you look at the first and the second season, they kind of felt that the pace seemed a little bit too similar in a way. But this third season, they decided to be a little bit more variant on the pacing. In this case, they mostly explore Retsuko trying out a side job that, well, she involuntarily got into. She and for technically a naive girl that thinks that the world is you can't change, that she's gonna stay as a mediocre life. She sometimes opportunity comes even by sheer accident. In this case, she just she accidentally wrecks a minivan and a rented car, so she has to pay for the damage. But luckily, she had the opportunity to find out that the side job that is kind of closer to her passion, which is none other than singing karaoke death metal. At first, she doesn't reconsider it, but then they began to push it, saying that you can't stay like that forever. You have to be a little bit more emotive. Because the thing about Retsuko is that she's basically a good girl. She doesn't want to hurt anyone, so to the point that she keeps secret a lot. But in a way, when you are too secretive, it also causes harms to others. People get worried about you, especially for the people that genuinely cares. And I also like that that the business of idols and singing groups and everything, they don't always show you kind of in the brightest of things. Just like many kids anime saying that, well, there's always glamour, being a pop singer or everything, but sometimes it's not. You have to deal with the merchandise, the fans, sometimes there is irresponsibility from the producers and how they technically pushes the in this case the girls to even kind of like unreasonable quotas or responsibilities that they're kind of quote unquote forced in order to push to their limits in order to be successful. It's technically a really hard job, and of course at the end it also ends with the prize that sometimes you are not always liked by everyone. Sometimes people love you, but there's also people hates you. But in the worst case scenarios, you're gonna find the worst people of them all. And it's case in point, this creepy guy who almost kills Retsuko. But then we got the other side, which Haida, which I actually liked his escapade of his love triangle between him, Retsuko, and Inui, which is a shame that he technically picks up the kind of like the most challenging relationship when he basically found out his match. Inui she's really nice. I like her a lot, and it's a shame that he didn't take her. She was technically the perfect girl. But sometimes, you know, not everyone makes the best decisions in the world. Sometimes the one that you pick is probably the worst decision in the world. But just like the series teaches us sometimes, is that you might not take the best decisions. You might be on, wallowing in a dead-end job, but still, it's not the end of the world. You just have to keep going. Life is like that. Even though we all just talk, brush off the capitalism, the debts, and everything. So mostly, this is what I gather from the themes of this series about having debts, the price of fame, getting side jobs, and about trying to be honest with your feelings. If I have to say some negatives about the season, is that some of the characters that we know from the series are technically either forgotten or they don't show up enough. For example, the hippo lady doesn't appear very often. So know that the deer, she just appears once. And also, you know that the previous episode there is this really nasty snake lady that also bullies Retsuko. She doesn't appear a single time in this season. So some of the characters that are, how can I say, that are secondary in the office job, they're barely non-existent. Even that Mr. Tan, who is basically kind of like the quote-unquote main antagonist of the series, he barely appears. But I can see why. They're concentrating on a certain type of story. And also the pacing can be a little bit tiring if you've seen, the other Retsuko series. Although I didn't have problem with that. I was actually felt that this season felt a little bit more refreshing compared to season 2. Don't get me wrong, season 2 is I like it too, but it felt similar to season 1. Although I also got a little bit of the like that Tanado appears too. So basically, yeah, that's my whole thing about Aggretsuko Season 3. So, do I think that there's gonna be a Season 4? That, I will say that is a hard question, because I think that since this episode mostly really explore about Retsuko's passion to the music, and also explore a little bit more about Haida's wishy-washy unrequited love to Retsuko, I think that it actually ended up in a nice cap, where it is kind of vague, but at the same time hopeful in one way or another. So I think that it did cover enough for the series to maybe call it a series finale. So I'm open for a season 4, but I'm not gonna hold my finger out of it. I'm satisfied with the ending that they got. And again, if there's a season 4, I welcome it. And well, that is my review of Aggretsuko Season 3. I hope you like it. And just like, and well, there's nothing much I have to say, but remember, when things go down, take courage and punch the world back. I mean, not everyone, it is worse to become an urchin on the desert.